Hello and welcome. How are we? How are we today? I just want to send myself an image to make it a PNG so I can put it in here. Oh, you come back. Come back. Come. Hello? What is going on today? Hmm. I just want to. I need this. Hey, come back. Hey, come back. Hey, come back. Hey, come back. What the hell am I doing? Okay, I did take my meds today, I promise. But hi. Have you seen the Scum villain? The second cover? The second book cover? Second book cover? What was that? Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Well, now you've seen it. Look how beautiful. Look how gorgeous. Look how wonderful and perfect it is. Oh my god. You haven't seen this one yet? Ah! I mean, I love my Binghe with curly hair, but it's canon that it doesn't specify that he has curly hair, but I need to zoom in on them. Oh my god, they're so pretty. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, I need to put that away before I don't know, nut or something. Anyway. Shinmo has veins? Oh my god. Oh my god. God. That's crazy. Genuine glasses, truth or fair. I think he has glasses too, but I think he has contacts mostly, but my canon, my head canon is that he needs glasses, but he doesn't wear them. He doesn't want to wear them. So anyway, it is a Monday. It is not Sunday. Yesterday my neck was hurting a bit too much. And today my hips are hurting. But it's okay. I can still read when my hips are hurting. Tea. Tea. Alright. We are on. So we didn't finish the chapter last time, but we are on chapter 19, Shenju, on page 228, I believe. Let me figure out where we left off. Oh boy. Digging holes. Okay, here's the problem. So many of these paragraphs end with digging holes. I think. Digging holes. Digging holes. So many end with digging holes. Hello, Kylo Dwarf. Welcome in. Welcome in, we're reading. I did attempt to get my chat to work again, but it didn't work, so we're just here like this. You guys, both Twitch and YouTube, are on the same playing field at the moment. So I will be your not translator, what's the word? I'm looking for a different word, but I can't find it because I'm not wording today. I'm reading. So yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going to read the paragraph of which I think I left off on. So yeah, about in the middle of page 228, volume 3, chapter 19. Okay. Though Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky had used many paragraphs and author notes explaining that digging holes wasn't just about digging holes, using this simple exercise they could assess the diggers' stamina, speed, perseverance, spiritual energy circulation, and even moral character, etc. But Shen Jingqiu couldn't remember a single justification. In his heart, no matter how many explanations Airplane bullshitted, it didn't change that the whole thing was just digging holes. The Shenju of this time had already ascended to the position of Qingjing Peak Lord. A rule of Sangchong Mountain was thus: the 12 peak lords moved as one, meaning that all their successions and departures were conducted in unison. The inauguration ceremonies were likewise always performed for a group, and the decision to retire was even more so united. Even if a peak lord met an unfortunate death during their tenure, their position remained empty. Back when Shen Jingzhou had faked his death and vanished for 5 years, Qingjing Peak's seat had remained vacant as well. So, peak lords of different generations never led together. This made certain extraordinary situations more troublesome, but without a generation gap, the emotional bonds and sense of camaraderie between the peak lords were much stronger. With this thought, Shen Jingzhou couldn't help but mentally jump to another rule. After confirming their succeeding disciples, the senior generation of peak lords always gave their heirs new names based on their generational character to highlight their special status. There were so many possible names that began with this generation's character, Qing, but Chenju just had to end up with Qing Cho. Like the world was truly out to get him. Shenju hated the character Cho to the bone, yet his name was bestowed upon him anyway. How couldn't he choke on the bitterness? Even Shen Jingzhou couldn't stop himself from wanting to coddle the man for 30 seconds. No wonder the original flavor felt little gratitude or respect toward the previous Qingjing Peak Lord. Shenju and Ye Qingyuan appeared to be engaged in discussion upon the rock. Shen Jingzhou glanced at little Binghe, who was engrossed in his task. He gave his head a couple of phantom pats, then leapt onto the rock face to stand next to the duo, listening in. "There's even more people here this year, compared to the past trials," said Yue Qingyuan. Shenju squinted, his expression devoid of joy or anger. With a subtle shift of his 2 fingers, the fan in his hand slowly opened. From the side, another person approached and bowed to Yue Qingyuan. "Zhengmen Xishong." Hang on, my mic, sorry. This person completely ignored Shenju, who stood next to them, his eyes about to overflow with resentment. Besides Great Master Lu, who else could have that much arrogance? At this point, Lu Qingge's formal ascension to Baijian Peak Lord II had likely only happened a couple years ago. There was a visible air of immaturity about his features, his gaze fierce and sharp, and within his every action was a young man's spirited vigor. "Excellent timing, Lu Shidi," said Yue Qingyuan. "Why not take a look and see who's best?" Lu Qingge only needed a glance to say, "Talent-wise, him." Shen Jingzhou gave a satisfied nod. Great Master Lu had a good eye indeed. The one he pointed to had his back to them, and it was the diligently digging Lu Binghe. "Does Lu Shidi want him?" asked Yue Qingyuan. Those who wish to come to me will come themselves." Baijian Peak had always been the same. Come or don't come, do as you please. But if you come, prepare yourself for a beating. Anyone who waited around for others to take them as their disciple had no future and no place on Baijian Peak. The ones who did were the ones who took the initiative to come to Baijian Peak themselves, screaming and crying and begging to be beat up. Shenju said mildly, Good talent doesn't guarantee success." Lu Qingge didn't even grace him with a sideways glance. "But certainly more success than a nobody who only began proper cultivation at age 16. What a bitch. I forgot how bitchy this man was. Oh my god. Binghe's hair has a head pet magnet. Oh god. Sure enough, these two had never been able to see eye to eye at all. Lu Qingge disliked speaking to people with whom he didn't see eye to eye even more. Yet, for the purpose of taunting Shenju, he'd actually managed 15 words. That his own current relationship with Lu Qingge wasn't too terrible was practically a miracle. Lu Shidi. Yue Qingyuan's tone was full of reproach. Lu Qingge had no interest in being lectured and turned to leave right away. I'm going to practice. He departed without a second word, coming and going like the wind. Shenju stood stiffly in place, shaking in rage at Lu Qingge's insult. Two sharp cracks sounded from the fan as he squeezed it, his grip overly forceful. Lu Shidi isn't good with his words. Yue Qingyuan's tone was resigned. You've always known this, so you must not mind him. Shenju humphed, his air sullen and spiteful. He seemed about to say something when Ning Ying clambered up. Shizun, she called, flinging her arms around Shenju's waist. Will Ying Ying get a shimei or a shidi? When Shenju looked at her, his face relaxed somewhat. Would you like a how does Shenju sound like? I don't think I've done his voice proper. He was a brat before, now, okay. Would you like a shidi or a shimei? Ning Ying nodded several times. Shenju raised his head and opened his fan. What the fuck? I can't read. I promise I can read. And speak. I can do both. Chica, you say so few words, but the ones you say. Truly. Shenju raised his head and opened his fan, giving it a couple of waves. He squinted to himself, starting to plot something or other. Suddenly he spoke. I want that child. He was staring at Lo Binghe. Yue Qingyuan startled. The original flavor's unsavory track record in terms of his treatment and highly talented disciples had probably long since spread throughout the entire sect. Now he'd again asked his sect leader for a promising young sprout. So, Shen Jingzhou could understand Yue Qingyuan's hesitation. It really required some careful deliberation. Upon seeing Yue Qingyuan's reluctance and lack of answer, Shenju coldly repeated himself. I want him. Speaking to even your sect leader that way, that's asking to be hit. In his head, Shen Jingzhou couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Unexpectedly, Yue Qingyuan slowly nodded, giving his consent. All right. Shen Jingzhou was utterly speechless. To think Yue Qingyuan could tolerate even that. Exactly how had this body of his safety... What? Huh? Exactly how had this body of his safely survived to this day? And then there was Great Master Lu. So the reason behind the original flavor wanting to snatch up Lo Binghe for himself at all costs was the seed of disaster you planted. Ning Ying cheered and ran down the rock, heading into the crowd on the canyon to grab Lo Binghe. In the original text, this was the opening scene of where Lo Binghe entered the sect under Shen Jingzhou. However, because it had been from the male lead's point of view, Great Master Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky hadn't written the interactions between the three peaked lords in detail, and with all their subtle undercurrents. Instead, the passage had started right from a sweet-smelling young girl descending from the sky, suddenly coming to take Lo Binghe with her. Surely, upon reading that opening, every single reader had the same thought as Shen Yuan back then, that this would be the start of the male lead's godly and unstoppable good fortune, both in love and in general. They hardly imagined that it was actually a crumb of sugar before a grand parade of 300 stabs. Shen Jingzhou knew what awaited Lo Binghe next, but he could only continue watching helplessly. Watch as Lo Binghe followed Ning Ying as they arrived at Qingjing Peak's bamboo house. Watch as Shenju sat in the seat where Shen Jingzhou always had, a teacup in his hand, scraping at the tea leaves. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival! Yeah! Happy Chuseok! Or whatever is equivalent to that in anyone's culture. Yippee! Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, it's fine. I can read this. I can read this and not cry. It's okay. Shenju quickly sent the chittering Ning Ying away with an excuse. Ming-Fan stood beside him and spoke in his place. Starting from today, you will stay on Qingjing Peak. Little Lo Binghe's face was flushed red with surprised joy. He knelt to bow, form prim and proper, then said in a crisp, bright voice, Disciple Lo Binghe greets Shizun. The corner of Shenju's mouth twitched, and he finally lowered the teacup from his chin. His words slow and measured, he said, Tell me, why did you come to Sangchong Mountain Sect? Lo Binghe nervously yet earnestly replied like he was reciting from a book. This disciple has always admired the many immortal masters on the mountain, their persons and demeanors both. If he can enter the sect and find success in his learning, this disciple's mother in heaven will be able to find peace. Shen Jingzhou knew this was an answer that Lo Binghe had devised on the road, one that he tossed and turned and polished unceasingly. Shenju made a non-committal noise. You had a mother? Demeanor cavalier? He asked. What was your mother like? Lo Binghe raised his smiling face, his eyes shining brightly. Mother was the kindest person in the world to me. Shenju's face twitched, and he raised a hand to stop him. He looked at Lo Binghe. He looked Lo Binghe up and down once. Indeed, you're at the best age for cultivating. Shen Jingzhou saw three things in the original flavor's face. Envy, and more envy. Envy that Lo Binghe had a mother who was the kindest in the world to him, envy of Lo Binghe's talent, envy that Lo Binghe would enter Sangchong Mountain Sect at the best age for cultivating. He was indeed the kind of person to brim with envy and resentment toward a young child. Shenju stood and walked over to Lo Binghe, his steps measured. Shen Jingzhou inadvertently moved to shield him, but how could he stop anything? Lo Binghe raised his face and watched as the Qingjing Peak Lord approached, his expression like that of a boy gazing at a celestial god. But who knew that the celestial god would walk right by him without a glance? At the same time, Shenju casually tossed the tea in his hand, cup and lid and all, onto Lo Binghe. The tea wasn't freshly boiled, the temperature only hot instead of scalding, but Lo Binghe's entire person still froze, stunned. Ming-Fan's footsteps paddled after Shenju, who'd walked out of the bamboo house without a second word, hands behind his back. But before the former stepped out of the door, he yelled behind him, Kneel! Shizun hasn't allowed you to get up. If you dare get up, be warned that you'll be strung up and beaten, and after the beating, you'll be shut in the woodshed for 3 days. For the first time, Shen Jingzhou realized that, in terms of talent in digging his own cannon fodder grave, that child Ming-Fan really deserved full marks. Having just entered his apprenticeship, Lo Binghe had been full of joy and gratitude, but now that he had been splashed with a head full of tea for no reason, his heart had been wholly chilled and quenched, as if he'd taken a bucket of ice water to the face, complete with ice cubes. He blankly remained kneeled in place, eyes unblinking. During the silence, 2 teardrops rolled down his cheeks. I can do this. This was Lo Binghe's first cry since he personally buried his mother. It would also be the last time he cried at Sangchong Mountain Sect. After this, no matter what humiliation he suffered, no matter what Shen Jingzhou did to him while venting his twisted feelings, Lo Binghe's tears never fell unrestrained in the way they did today. Shen Jingzhou crouched before him, but when he raised his sleeves, they passed right through Lo Binghe. He was unable to touch him, unable to hug him. He was completely helpless to even wipe away his tears. His heart ached and throbbed to the point that he wished for death. Despite knowing Lo Binghe couldn't hear him, he still said, Don't cry, Binghe. True nightmare can't hug Binghe. It's true. That's a real nightmare. Oh man. Binghe stared down at his knees, and the fist resting on his leg slowly clenched, his tears dripping faster, the drops splashing onto his lapels. Hang on, I need to bring up the illustration before we move on. Oh god. Let me find it, and I really need to do this ahead of time. Oh, Bing. Where are you? Where are you? Where the heck? Where the heck? Wait, what? Oh. Oh, it's here. Oh, my baby. Oh, baby. Oh, baby Binghe. I think I need to put on my tears. Ugh. There they are. Fuck, where was I? Oh my god, okay. I'm fine, I can do this. Susan will never hit you again. Shen Qingzhou fruitlessly wiped at his cheeks and coaxed him. So don't cry. Binghe raised a hand and rubbed at his eyes, then carefully picked up the teacup on the ground before placing it to the side. Clutching that jade pendant to his chest, he corrected his kneeling posture. Shen Qingzhou knew what Binghe was thinking at this moment. Surely he hadn't understood the rules and had done something wrong, angering the Peak Lord. That was why he'd been given this punishment. As a disciple, kneeling for his shizun was also something he should do. Looking at those subtle movements of his, Shen Qingzhou couldn't help but kneel as well, so that they were face to face. He reached out, tightly enveloping the entirety of Binghe's small body in a phantom embrace. His eyes slid shut, and the world descended into darkness. It's okay. It's okay. He grows up and he's better and he's nice to him. It's okay. I'm fine. I already know how all of this ends. Oh my god. Okay. That's that. Oh, I don't like to see him cry, even though he cries all the time. But he does it so manipulative most of the time. It's okay. It's okay. Everything's fine. That was a scene break. But we still have more of this chapter to get through. We are on page 237. When he next opened them, what filled his vision instead was a white bed curtain, its corners decorated with tassels. At the sudden change in scenery, Shen Qingzhou froze in place, surprised and unable to react. At least not before he heard Yue Qingyuan's voice beside him. Awake? Shen Qingzhou mechanically blinked a couple of times. His throat felt a bit dry, but he forced out his voice. Zhangmen Qishong. Shut up. Yue Qingyuan was sitting next to his bed. He watched Shen Qingzhou for a while, then said, You kept calling Binghe's name. Oh. While crying. Shen Qingzhou wiped at his face. Other than sweat, he did in fact feel another type of liquid. Tears were truly infectious. After a pause, he guiltily said, Shishong, let me explain. Explain what? What kind of convincing reason could he give for the reality that was the Qingjing Peak Lord was crying while calling his disciple's name in a dream? At the sight of Shen Jingzhou unwilling to speak, Yue Qingyuan sighed. It's fine. It's enough that you're awake. No need to explain. Shen Jingzhou awkwardly sat up. Suddenly, he thought this scene was a little familiar. The first time he'd woken in this world, Yue Qingyuan had also been at his bedside, watching over him. Yue Qingyuan studied his complexion. You slept for 5 days. Do you wish to continue sleeping? 5 days? Shen Jingzhou almost fell over right there. Plot hole filling completion rate for target, Shenju, 70%. Only 70% complete? Wait, other than the 10% lost due to the incomplete memory incident, where was the remaining 20? Where had it gone? There was no time to give it more thought. Shen Jingzhou first grabbed Yue Qingyuan. Jiangmen Shishong, the first day of snow, the Lower River. Realizing that he was too agitated and his words were incoherent, Shen Jingzhou composed himself, transforming his expression into something calm and stern. I mean, that it's highly probable that Tianlangjun will choose that time and location to use Jinmo to create a portal when he begins to merge the two realms. How do you know? Asked Yue Qingyuan. Shen Jingzhou was stuck again. How could he say that it was because it'd been written in the original text that these would be the most suitable time and location? I was in Tianlangjun's hands for a while. And he told you just like that? Shen Jingzhou couldn't come up with an explanation on the spot, so he could only forge ahead. Please, Jiangmen Shishong, you have to believe me. Yue Qingyuan glanced at him for a while, then closed his eyes for another long moment. Afterward, he stood up and gently said, Rest first. Leave this issue to your fellow sect members. Rest? Did he mean sleep? Shen Jingzhou had already slept for 5 days. Why that truck meowing at us? I don't know. Only proud immortal demon Wei would shrug at the idea of a cultivator at core formation stage sleeping so much. I dare you to try writing this in another Zhongdian literature novel. The author would be mocked at until even his mother couldn't recognize him. Once Yue Qingyuan's footsteps faded, Shen Jingzhou tumbled off the bed, searching everywhere for his outer robe. As he spun around haphazardly, he failed to notice someone approaching him from behind, and a hand covered his eyes. Shen Jingzhou automatically struck out with his elbow. Who is it? Who else would have the guts to play such a stupid trick, let alone the interest? His hand was firmly caught in a grasp, and a familiar voice spoke by his ear. Why doesn't Shizun guess? What was the point of guessing when he'd already opened his mouth and called him Shizun? Shen Jingzhou was rolling his eyes when the person behind him suddenly grabbed his waist. Waist? Okay. Causing them both to tumble onto the bamboo couch to the side. Its bamboo twigs crackled under their combined weight. The object blocking his eyes moved away. Sure enough, it was Lord Binghe. Of course it was. He grabbed his waist for the first time. I don't think that was his first time. I think on this sword might have been the first time. That hand moved to cover Shen Jingzhou's mouth instead. Don't blink. Shizun's eyelashes are so long. They tickled me too much, and now both my hand and heart are itchy. This motherfucker. This Shizun fucker. You're the one with long eyelashes. The person with the longest eyelashes is you. Shen Jingzhou in his head. Shen Jingzhou continuously blinked dozens of times, expressing his anger. Lord Binghe smiled, then kissed his eyelids softly. Wait, hang on. We can't just glance over that. Wait, hang on. We can't just glance over that. He kissed his eyelids softly. Okay. Don't shout. If someone from Qingjing Peak discovers us, Shizun's prestigious reputation would be truly ruined. What reputation? It long since been ruined by this unfilial disciple. Binghe kissed his way down Shen Jingzhou's eyes. I said that I would come for you. It's been so many days since our last meeting. Did Shizun miss me? According to the standard response Shen Jingzhou had in mind, first he should knee Binghe in the belly, then kick this unfilial disciple away and tidy up his appearance before finally delivering a cold and aloof, I didn't. But somehow, when he thought back to that recent memory of Binghe kneeling alone in the bamboo house, silently picking up the teacup on the floor, his legs wouldn't obey him at all. Shen Jingzhou's breathing also seemed to tremble against Binghe's palm. He closed his eyes and nodded. He loves it. God. That's the end of the chapter, by the way. Oh, God. Ugh. These bitches are gay. They're pretty fucking gay. Oh, God. The next chapter is chapter 20, titled Impending War. Impending War? Impending War? I love it, I'm glad that you love it. Oh, it is truly something special. He kissed him! He kissed him! He gave him a little smooch on his eye. I'm so gay. Alright, let's just continue on. I'm good to go. Let's go. Chapter 20. How's my throat doing? My throat's fine. Okay. Binghe had already braced himself to be kicked off the couch, so Shen Jingzhou nodding caught him completely off guard. He went stiff on his perch, atop Shen Jingzhou, and his expression froze as well. Only then did Shen Jingzhou realize what he had done, what that nod of his meant. He was filled with the urge to eradicate all witnesses, as well as off himself in shame. No. It's not what you think. Let me explain. In his head. But Binghe didn't give him a chance. The arm around Shen Jingzhou's waist tightened and his voice dropped. The arm around Shen Jingzhou's waist tightened and his voice dropped. You really missed me? Shen Jingzhou frowned at how tightly Binghe squeezed him. Binghe persisted breathlessly and tirelessly. You really did? You're covering my mouth. Even if I wanted to answer, I couldn't, in his head. Meaning he could only choose to nod or shake his head. To mess with him, Shen Jingzhou alternated between nodding his head and shaking it. What a bitch! What a little bitch! So which is it? You did or didn't? Binghe asked, now urgent. As he looked close to tears, Shen Jingzhou was left with no recourse but to admit defeat. He was hit with a bizarre feeling that he was martyring himself. With his entire face on the line, he dawdled for a while longer before finally nodding once. This time, Shen Jingzhou saw everything clearly. At the moment of his confirmation, Binghe's breath came to a stop. A small, weak spark glimmered to life in his eyes before it rapidly spread like a raging wildfire through his entire face and body. Just when Shen Jingzhou thought Binghe was about to burst into tears of joy, Binghe suddenly burrowed into him, pressing his face into the gap between Shen Jingzhou's lapels. The hand covering his mouth slowly fell away. Then he started to drop tiny, quick kisses all of the corner of Shen Jingzhou's mouth, not unlike a little chick pecking for grain. Are you kidding me? Why did I forget this has happened? How did I? You kidding me? He wants to eat him. Oh my god. But in the most loving way possible. Oh, I can't. I am too gay for this shit. Now that he was finally able to breathe properly, Shen Jingzhou tossed out 2 words from between gritted teeth. What nonsense. I also missed you, Lo Binghe muttered. Really, really missed you. There wasn't a single moment when I didn't miss you. Shen Jingzhou slowly released the breath he'd been holding in his chest. He lay back on the couch like a dead fish, staring up at the bamboo house's ceiling in despair. After a long moment, he finally sighed. Then why didn't you come look for this master inside the dream realm these past few days? Lo Binghe stared at him with dark, moist eyes. Wouldn't Shizun find me annoying? Pestering him during the day, then pestering him more in his dreams at night, Shen Jingzhou spent 24 hours a day staring at his face. Of course it was annoying. But somehow, while he wasn't paying attention, he'd become used to the pestering. Like how now, even though Lo Binghe was practically on top of him, Shen Jingzhou shockingly didn't find it unacceptable. Exactly how had they reached this point? Wasn't it becoming a little much? So cute. He is so fucking cute. You know that it's annoying, yet you didn't show the least bit of restraint, Shen Jingzhou said dryly. It's not the first time Shizun's complained about me, so it's fine. I'll accept that I'm annoying. Ugh, 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 ugh. At these words, Shen Jingzhou's heart couldn't help but throb a little. Just how far did Lo Binghe's love for him go? Boy, don't ask that. Maybe as far as it can reach inside. Sorry. Tea. Tea. Even back during Lo Binghe's early days on Sangchong Mountain, when he'd suffered that awful treatment, the moment Shen Jingzhou expressed the tiniest kindness, he had wiped all the prior harm he'd suffered from his mind and accepted Shen Jingzhou into the depths of his heart without a moment of hesitation. Then Shen Jingzhou unknowingly crushed that glass heart of his, and Lo Binghe picked up the pieces one by one, like an abused young wife gluing them back together, whereupon he handed it back to Shen Jingzhou, full of hope and expectations, only for it to be crushed again, then glued back together, etc. Whenever Shizun is at Sangchong Mountain, Lo Binghe said quietly, when Shizun's with other people, he always smiles so happily, so I thought that you wouldn't miss me. He really thought he wouldn't miss him. Immortal Master Shen's badass act had become a habit by now, especially when he was at Sangchong Mountain. The most he offered was an enigmatic? Yes. Ambitious expression that both seemed to be a smile and not. Otherwise, it was a smile that didn't reach his eyes and left people guessing. Or excluding that, it was perfunctory, fake smile. It was a perfunctory fake smile. Exactly when had he smiled so happily? Rendoris, hello, welcome in. Nonsense, Shen Jingzhou objected. It's true that Shizun's smiles are never very wide, Lo Binghe said. But of course, I know when Shizun is smiling within his heart. Gay! You're lying on top of someone and acting spoiled while playing with a strand of their hair. Are you a little girl? In his head. Shen Jingzhou rolled his eyes. Yes, you're a roundworm on my stomach. What? No, you're a roundworm in my stomach. Sorry, I just remembered art of Binghe being a worm. Anyway, that's a common Chinese idiom approximately equivalent to you read my mind or you know me like the back of your hand. Fair enough. I don't want to be a roundworm. Shen Qingzhou smacked the hand, playing with his hair like it was a mosquito. Then what do you want to be? You tell me. Just who has this master smiled at? Shen Qingzhou said, you are a worm, and I love you did. By the end of this question, he was giving that wandering hand a smack every couple of words, but still it wasn't deterred. Oh my god. This is a problem. Oh no. Okay, it's fine. I'm just thinking about some things. Just thinking about some things. Lo Binghe actually began to count them off. Lots of people. Lu Shishu, Lu ... Shishu. Sect leader Yue, Shang Qinghua, Mingfan, Ning Shijie, Xianshu Peak's disciples, and Wanjian Peak's, Qianzhao Peaks, Chongqing Peaks, and Baijian Peaks, the mountain guards, the stair sweepers. My god, I could not read all of that and not trip up like 50 times. Anyway, he wouldn't even let the mountain guards and stair sweepers go. Just how deep was this child's grudge? The entirety of Sangchong Mountain was about to drown beneath this demon import super fragrant mature vinegar. What? What the fuck? What does that mean? Demon import super fragrant mature vinegar. Okay. Oh, hello. Thanks for the raid. Welcome in. Thank you so much. What the hell? What the hell? Don't commit arson. Don't. What the hell? Hang on. Give me a shout out. Thank you so much. We're reading book. We're reading gay shit. It's like drinking vinegar, but it's strong vinegar. Okay, fair enough. Fair, because he's so bitter. He's so stupid. He's so stupid, and I love him. Oh, but welcome in. We're like on the third book of Scum Villain. So if you don't know this, feel free to qualify. Yeah. You know, if you don't want spoilers or anything, feel free to dip. I don't mind. But if you want to hang out, it's fun even without any context. So, yeah. Here we go. Oh god. That shishu of yours was much too insincere, Shen Jingzhou criticized him. You're not allowed to use that tone again in the future. He's trying so hard though. Well, when he lectures me, he calls me little beast or ingrate, Lo Binghe complained resentfully. He's plenty sincere then. Shen Jingzhou couldn't help but burst into laughter. He picked up the fan next to the couch and rapped Lo Binghe's forehead. Is he wrong? When you have the gall to put your paws on even your shizun, what could you be if not a little beast? His words came out so smoothly that he didn't realize he hadn't been sufficiently careful with this response. There was a lilt to his words, the tail end lifting together with the corner of his lips, neither light nor heavy. There was even a frivolity in his tone, with no propriety at all. He said he got too casual. Is this BL? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. As Lo Binghe looked down at Shen Jingzhou, he took in this sight, feeling like a nameless, agitated fire burned within his abdomen and the heart in his chest. He unconsciously moved and slid his thigh. Hang on, what? He unconsciously moved and slid his thigh between Shen Jingzhou's. Then, fearing that Shen Jingzhou would notice and kick him off the couch, he quickly moved his head over, letting Shen Jingzhou wrap it with his fan to his heart's content. Even if I am a little beast, I am only Shizun's little beast, and no one else's. So no one else is allowed to call me that. Favorite BL? This is my favorite BL. This is my period. This is my favorite BL. Oh, oh my god. I almost waterboarded myself. At those words, Shen Jingzhou felt like he'd been force-fed a litter of sour plum soup. The nauseating sappiness was making his hair stand on end, and he almost snapped his fan right in two. He hastily prodded at Luo Binghe's chest, wanting him off. Get up. In order to talk about proper things, first they needed to assume proper sitting positions. While they were on top of each other like this, any topic, no matter how proper, would become improper. Luo Binghe was reluctant, but he still pulled himself up to sit on the end of the couch. After sleeping for 5 days, Shen Jingzhou felt like his waist was about to snap. Thankfully, he could finally straighten it now. He thought that his appearance was that of a frowning, grumpy old man massaging and kneading his waist and legs, but those who saw him wouldn't have come away with the same impression. Aww. His hair hung loose and slightly messy around his shoulders, while his collar lay askew, exposing a fair white shoulder and leaving his throat and collarbone in clear view. Furthermore, because he'd just been tumbling about on the couch, there was a soft flush to his cheeks as he frowned, head lowered and kneading his waist. At this sight, anyone with unruly thoughts would only become more unruly. Never read Danmei before. I've only read manga. That's fair. It's fun. It's so much fun. If you can't read it, at least like listen to it. I mean, I have an audit. No, not audit. I have a reading issue, so I usually listen to my books. But yeah, it's so much fun. It's so much fucking fun. Oh my god. Luo Binghe watched him, eyes unblinking, then scooted closer and massaged his waist slowly. Luo Binghe, Shen Jingzhou was satisfied. Oh my god! Oh my god! They're so gay. This is porn. Shen Jingzhou was satisfied. Good boy. How considerate. If I was Luo Binghe, in this moment, how is he holding himself back? Oh my god, this man has so much restraint right now. I have ADHD. Oh yeah, the ADHD really fucks me up, but yeah, okay, this is fine. I have many more considerate traits that Shizun doesn't know about. What a show-off. When you face off against When you face off against Tianlang Jun, Luo Binghe continued, if Shizun needs any help, feel free to call me. Shen Jingzhou had been avoiding the topic of Tianlang Jun this whole time for fear of upsetting Luo Binghe. He hadn't expected Luo Binghe himself to be the one to bring it up. This was a little too considerate. He pondered for a moment, then said while deliberating, Your father? Luo Binghe pressed his face into Shen Jingzhou's shoulder and said stuffily, I have no father. I only have Shizun. He called him daddy. He basically called him daddy. Thank you. It's fine. Shen Jingzhou was silent. Why does it sound like I've become your father? In his head. He waved away this feeling of defeat and said seriously, if you're pushing yourself, don't force it. No matter what kind of weirdo Tianlang Jun was, in the end, he was Luo Binghe's dad. He was also someone Luo Binghe had once yearned for, even if the real person could have been more different from the mental image in Luo Binghe's daydreams. Luo Binghe didn't stop his hands and said differently, I'm not pushing myself. Shen Jingzhou studied him closely. True enough, this was indeed the expression of someone who was completely willing to help with a real campaign. Ooh. There was no trace of Luo Binghe fighting his own feelings. In all honesty, this was a good thing. Though a son joining the effort to screw over his own father wasn't too filial, if Lo Binghe really was willing to cooperate with the cultivation world to overcome Tianlangjun, not only would the human realm gain a powerful force of help, but Lo Binghe would also be able to farm a massive amount of righteous image points. Then Shen Jingzhou would be able to compensate for the minus points he'd received at Jiaohua Monastery. Just now, when Yue Qingyuan left, he'd said that Shen Jingzhou could rest properly and that he should leave this issue to his fellow sect members, making it very clear that he didn't want Shen Jingzhou participating in the war. Shen Jingzhou muttered to himself, Jiangmeng Qishong might not allow me to take part in the battle. The first day of snow at the Luo River, you should keep this time and location in mind. Lo Binghe's hands on his waist lightened, and he said gently, Sometimes I feel like Shizun understands certain things far too well. Is he catching on? Shen Jingzhou's heart thumped hard against his ribcage. Like that time at the Holy Mausoleum, Lo Binghe continued. Shizun had obviously never been in the Holy Mausoleum before, but he seemed to know the layout of the graves and the monsters guarding the mausoleum like the back of his hand. And he even took advantage of them easily. This disciple was truly amazed and impressed. Shen Jingzhou deliberately tried to downplay it. Qingjing Peak has accumulated so many records with every generation. Those aren't blank sheets of paper. Reading through them exhaustively... what? Those aren't blank sheets of paper. Reading through them exhaustively has its uses. Ugh. Lo Binghe's only response was an, oh. Having finished the massage, his hands began to carefully comb Shen Jingzhou's hair, which hung loose down his back. This disciple has done some reading of those records as well, but I didn't see quite that much. As expected, I have a long way to go to reach Shizun. How had he forgotten? Lo Binghe was a grade A student among grade A students, to a terrifyingly impossible extent. If Lo Binghe said he'd done some reading, that meant he'd taken those piles of dusty old books and memorized them to the point that he could recite them from cover to cover. So of course he'd know that there weren't any such uses within. This wasn't Yue Qingyuan. What the fuck did I just say? This child wasn't Yue Qingyuan. If Shen Jingzhou didn't want to say something, Yue Qingyuan wouldn't keep questioning him. Lo Binghe, however, would absolutely latch on and ask about something until he hit the heart of the matter. He wasn't that easy to dupe. The gears within Shen Jingzhou's brain turned and turned, trying to think of some means of talking around this. Suddenly, Ning Yingying's voice came from outside the bamboo house. Shizun, are you awake? May Yingying come in? Good girl, what an obedient disciple, in his head. You should leave first, Shen Jingzhou said in a low voice. Lo Binghe's hands paused. Why do I have to leave and not them? Ming Fang, it's supposed to be Fan. Why is it Fang right now? Ming Fan's voice came as well. Shizun, several shishus have arrived, he said. Is now a good time for you to get up? Why is everyone coming all at once? Shen Jingzhou leapt off the couch and pushed Lo Binghe to the window. Lo Binghe turned his head while walking to say, So Shizun likes to be sneaky about it. I hate him. He's a pervert. He's just a pervert. He's a little perv. My god. What the hell? Where was I? Okay. Shen Jingzhou again wrapped his forehead with the fan. Just who's the one sneaking around, and whose fault is it? Why must he always make every situation look like a secret affair? Lo Binghe suddenly flipped out the window, but then reached in again to grab Shen Jingzhou. He said gently, Shizun, once everything calms down, will you leave with me? Shen Jingzhou couldn't quite relinquish his own face. This master is still the Qingjing Peak Lord, he said reservedly. If Lo Binghe wanted to see him, he could just come and look for him. Why did Shen Jingzhou have to leave with him? He refused to give the regret of Chunshan more material. Of course. Lo Binghe sighed. I thought you'd say that. With the window shut, the bamboo house's door opened instead. Chi Ching-chi's voice reached Shen Qingqiu before her person. She lifted the curtain, revealing her bright, lovely face. You become more delicate each day, she said, lips pursed. Did the few staff strikes you received at Jiaohua Monastery injure you that badly? Were you coughing up blood or what? Sleeping for 5 days in one go. I fucking love her. she's so mean. Shen Qingqiu turned and said, only partly insincere. Don't be like this, Qi Shimei. You've always known that my body is weak. Qi Qingqi humphed. I've always known that you cause a lot of trouble. That's true. Girl! She's ableist. Oh my god. Okay, I have an ad starting soon. I'm gonna take a little tiny break here. And I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to finish this chapter because it's quite long. But we'll see. We will see. We shall see. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick little break right now for the ads to run, get more tea, all that. I'll see you in a bit. BRB. Alright, we're back, baby. Let's do this. Let's do this. Oh no, I'm on my headphone wires. Okay. Yes, get comfy. Everyone get comfortable. Get comfortable. Right now. Or I shall tell your mother. We're on the top of page 250. 250 exactly. Although I suppose it depends on what version you're reading. Anyway. Cool, no. Let's get going again. Behind her followed Lu Mingyan, who bowed after entering the house, and after her came Lu Qingge. Ming Fan and Ning Yingying walked together with Mu Qingfang at the rear. The bamboo house, which was neither large nor small, was suddenly brimming with people. Shame filled Shen Jingzhou. Luckily, Luo Binghe had already left through the window, otherwise they couldn't have concealed him. Ming Fang smiled. What? No. Mu Qingfang smiled. I told you that Shen Jingzhou's complexion was good, that there were no abnormalities, and he was really asleep. Now do you believe me? Shen Jingzhou expressed his embarrassment, then showed the Peak Lords their seats. He noted that Lu Qingge had been scanning the room continuously after entering, gaze intense. Lucidity, I'm over here. Lu Qingge, who withdrew his gaze and turned toward Shen Jingzhou. What the fuck? Lu Qingge withdrew his gaze and turned toward Shen Jingzhou, who was here just now. You can't pull a fast one on this guy. Shen Jingzhou specifically pointed at a seat for him. Zhang Menqishong had just left. He picked up the tea kettle on the table. Ming Fan hurried over to help, but Shen Jingzhou waved him off, making it clear that there was no need to intervene. As Shen Jingzhou personally served everyone tea, Lu Qingge finally sat down and picked up his teacup. He took a sip and spoke no further. Oh, I have an illustration all the way, by the way. Why am I like, what? Illustration? What's that? Let's see, do I have this one? Yes. Okay. Save as. Nope, not that. Save as. PNG. Punk. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I love it. They're so pretty. They're all so fucking pretty. What the fuck? That's not fair. Especially Lu Qingge. I might kind of be a little bit biased to Lu Qingge a bit. He's just really fucking pretty. This red. I want to eat him in many ways. Anyway. Where the hell? Of course Zhang Menqishong would come, Qu Jingji said. By that expression of yours, Lucidi, I thought you were talking about Luo Binghe. Though the speaker didn't mean anything, the listener felt ill. Shen Jingzhou's cheeks ached, and he gave a fake smile. How could that be? Qu Jingji put the teacup down heavily and gave him a meaningful glance. Indeed, how could that be? If that bastard Luo Binghe still has the gall to come to Sangchong Mountain, he'll see how we send him packing. First, you must be capable of sending him packing, Mu Qingfang said from the seat beside her, hands tucked into his sleeves. Shen Jingzhou chuckled aloud, leaving her no face. Qu Jingji pointed at him. You laugh? You still have the face to laugh? You're the biggest headache. Shen Jingzhou, I'll tell you right now, it's a good thing you returned with Xishong and Shidi this time. If you'd gone and left with Luo Binghe without a word again, I'd be the first in line to discipline you. Then we'd see if you could still fumble around. This was clearly an expression of concern, yet she worded it so savagely. All that was missing was her grabbing Shen Jingzhou by the scruff of his neck. Everyone in the room cluttered around them, and the ones watching for entertainment continued watching, the ones drinking tea continued drinking, the ones eating melon seeds continued eating. How come Lu Mingyan wouldn't remove her veil even when eating melon seeds? In parentheses. Stupid. Shen Qingqiu was rather afraid of Qi Qingqi, and hastily changed the topic. How is Jiangmen Shishong? Did that injury he sustained completely heal? He's about recovered, Mu Qingfang said. However, though he said recovered, he still looked like he wanted to sigh. Qi Qingqi humphed again. If not for how Shishong refuses to draw his sword except as a last resort, on top of how he forcefully broke his seclusion after hearing of the siege, Luo Binghe wouldn't have his way so easily. If you'd just taken a little longer to show up, you might have been able to see Shishong draw Xuan Su. Anticipation and excitement filled Shen Qingqiu's heart at these words. One must understand that regardless of whether it was the original work or in this world, what the fuck? One must understand that regardless of whether it was the original work or in this world, he had never witnessed a scene in which Xuan Su left his sheath. Who knew what airplane shooting towards the sky was thinking either, keeping it secrets at all costs and refusing to write it. All talk and no action. He'd built that sword up in a great detail again and again. Then at the very end, scam! With not a single thing to show for himself, Yue Qingyuan was pierced with 10,000 arrows and perished. Goodbye. Ever since Ning Yingying entered the room, she had stood at the side with her head lowered. Shen Qingqiu beckoned her over. What's wrong? Ning Yingying slowly walked up to him and raised her head. Her eyes were as red as a little rabbit's, her voice congested as she mumbled. Shizun, now that you've come back, don't ever leave again, okay? She'd been crying. Shen Qingqiu was stunned. He wasn't someone with particularly active tear ducts. At the most, he would shed a few tears for biological reasons. So how come his disciples were all the type to turn into weeping beauties at the drop of a hat? Moving by this scene, Ming Fan became sorrowful and began to howl as well. Shizun! Though this image couldn't be any further from that of a weeping beauty. Qi Qingqi never let a chance to lecture him pass her by. Look at your disciples. Does your heart not ache? You don't have just one, yet you only dote on that ingrate. Do you care about the others at all? Shen Qingqiu patted Ning Yingying's back, offering her some small comfort while defending himself. Since when have I only doted on one? She's kind of got a point. Lu Qingge drank his tea until only 1/3 remained. Gaze lowered, he said, Now that you're back, stay. Don't leave again. Lu Qingge! Lu Qingge! Shen Qingqiu said succinctly. With this answer of his, Qi Qingqi was completely satisfied. Lu Qingge was about to say something else when his brows furrowed and his murderous aura flared. Everyone in the room sensed the change in his demeanor. Without thinking, their hands went to their swords. Lu Qingge suddenly stood and flashed up to the window. Shen Qingqiu's heart leapt through his throat, where it hung suspended. Lu Qingge abruptly pushed open both sides of the window. Outside, sparse stars and a bright moon hung above, while a dense bamboo forest lay below. There was no one to be seen. Of course Luo Binghe wouldn't have continued to foolishly idle there. He must have left long ago. The mood within the room quickly relaxed. Lu Shishong, what are you looking at? Mu Qingfang asked. However, Lu Qingge didn't turn back. Instead, he reached out, as if catching something that was falling from the sky. After a long moment, he pulled his hand back and turned around. It's snowing. And that's a scene break. Ooh, okay. It might be a good idea to stop here. And then that way we'll have like 2 more streams to finish this book. Right? right? Would it be weird to stop in the middle of the fucking battle? Actually, it's quite long. Hang on. Give me a second. What is this? When is this? Huh? When? Oh, I don't know. Here's the thing, is that I can't just stop in the middle of the battle. Should we just really attempt to finish this chapter, and then next stream we're gonna like do a whole chapter in one? It's quite long. It's gonna be a bit much, but I mean, I'm still good to go now. It's only a matter of next time, really. So let's attempt. Let's make an attempt. We're at the bottom of page 254. Shen Jingqiu lay wide awake the entire night. The next day, the moment he heard the alarm bells clamor, he dashed out of the bamboo house. The ringing grew increasingly urgent, both loud and insistent, its echoes resounding without pause, lingering and reverberating throughout the entirety of Sangchong Mountain summit. Disciples from every peak streamed toward Chongding Peak via the rainbow bridges for the assembly. The area outside Chongding Peak's main hall was crowded with people, yet it was dead silent. Once Shen Jingqiu finished Once Shen Jingqiu finished settling in everyone from Qingjing Peak, he entered the hall. A white crystal mirror over 3 meters high stood on one side. Besides a single Anding Peak disciple who was stepping in to handle logistics, all the other Peak Lords had already arrived. They stood before the mirror, expressions grave. Reflected within was a vast and tranquil river, flanked by verdant mountains and green fields on both sides. Embedded within those fields were scattered white roofs, some in rows and some alone. The sky above the Luo River's middle reaches, said Yue Qingyuan. Above that scenery, a dark cavernous mass had appeared, a gloomy and treacherous mountain ridge, like a black skull pitted with crevices, pierced through the clouds. It crept forth from the roiling storm, hanging inverted as it stared emptily down below. Jesus. That was the demon realm's Maigu Ridge. From what we've heard, it began last night, said Yue Qingyuan. Initially, one could only see a mass of rock. Within 2 hours, one could discern a mountain ridge. In less than 2 hours? A Peak Lord said in shock. That's far too fast. No, that was the normal speed for such a merge. Sure enough, Tianlangjun had selected what the original work had called the best time and location to act. If everything proceeded according to expectations, after half a day, this phenomena would begin to occur everywhere. Within 2 days, the two realms would be completely integrated, as if one had torn up 2 complete and separate pictures, then haphazardly spliced them together to create a new image, riddled with pits and scars. Lu Qingge stood with his arms crossed, Cheng Luan in his hand. So we must be faster. All Peak Lords, select 2/3 of your inner disciples to move out with you, said Yue Qingyuan. Arrive at the Luo River's middle reaches within an hour. Can you chill? Sorry, my computer's being loud. Having received the sect leader's command, the Peak Lords dispersed in a flurry. In order to arrive within an hour, they had less than 10 minutes to make preparations, so naturally they had to be quick. Shen Jingqiu was also ready to head back and make his selection, but Yue Qingyuan called him back. You stay here. Shen Jingqiu turned his head. Xishang, You know I must go. Chidi, other than the first snow and the lower river, what else do you know? In order to stop the merge, we must first remove Shin Mo, Shen Jingzhou said slowly. It's been inserted somewhere into the skull of Maigu Ridge. Tianlangjun must be there to supply it with power. That meant that the only solutions were 1. Destroy Shin Mo, or 2. Kill Tianlangjun. Stay here on watch, Ye Qingyuan insisted. Shen Jingzhou was about to say something, but Ye Qingyuan lifted his hand and formed a gesture, as if about to cast a binding technique to directly seal Shen Jingzhou within Changding Hall. The sect leader was going to play hardball. Shen Jingzhou's back tensed. He didn't know whether to reach for Xu Ya. At this moment, a staggered chorus of shocked cries came from outside the hall. Both of them rushed outside and looked toward where the disciples on the field were pointing. Shen Jingzhou drew in a faint, chilled breath. In the sky over Sangchong Mountain, surging clouds billowed like a furious, roiling ocean, their masses suffused with a bloody glow. Ray after ray of red light pierced the horizon, and the boulders wrapped in flames descended one by one like giant blazing meteors, hurling straight toward Sangchong Mountain. Unperturbed, Ye Qingyuan lifted his hand and formed a gesture. Xuansu screamed forth still in its sheath, smashing those boulders into a fine powder. Like the aftermath of bursting fireworks, tiny particles drifted down, still carrying some residual warmth. Within the red clouds glowing like a within the red clouds glowing like a volcanic crater, one could faintly make out countless arms and howling heads, struggling and heaving, twisting in 1,000 expressions of agony, like a scene from hell. Fuck it all. It's the endless abyss. Sangchong Mountain really hit the jackpot. Shen Jingzhou roared internally. Airplane shooting towards the sky. You had the stones to write an interdimensional merge, and the stones to explicitly write that Sangchong Mountain's location would just happen to merge with the endless abyss? After this wave, who knew when or if the new wave of assaults would come? Who knew how much time they had before the 12 peaks merged with the endless abyss? Abyss to become a sea of fire and lava, a hell on earth. No one could stay on Sangchong Mountain, not anymore. Request assistance from the masters of Jiaohua Monastery, Ye Qingyuan said to that Anding Peak disciple in charge of logistics. Then he turned to raise his voice. Hear me, disciples on watch. The moment the barrier breaks, drop everything and leave the mountain immediately. The 1,000+ disciples on the field answered as one. Yes. Ye Qingyuan turned his head. Qingzhou Shiri, head to the lower river with them. Ooh. Sorry, my throat. Oh wait, I don't need this up anymore. Sorry. Put that away. Oh, my throat is doing something silly. La. Do I have notes? Lu Qingge had finished picking out his disciples and returned. What about you, sect leader? I'll hold them off while I wait for Jiaohua Monastery's assistance. I'll be with you right after. Zhangman Qishang, can you handle this by yourself? Oh, this is Shen Jingzhou, Shen Jingzhou asked. Or I could stay behind. Ye Qingyuan smiled. Ye Qingyuan actually smiled. When asked to stay, you leave. Yet, when told to leave, you try to stay. Shidi, really. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm normal. Lu Qingge grabbed Shen Jingzhou and dragged him away with a succinct, let's go. If he says he'll be right there, he will be. With the calamity imminent, Sangchong Mountain finally gained the self-awareness expected of a cultivation novel's #1 sect. At last, no longer were they so carefree as to plod along by carriage or boat. Thousands of swords swept through the sky at lightning speed. If anyone below looked up, they would have seen a dazzling array of lights, as if they glazed at the Milky Way itself. It was a tremendously magnificent scene. Unfortunately, those eerie mountain rocks emerging from the sky left no one with the heart to admire this rare and splendid spectacle. As expected, Anding Peak was unparalleled when it came to logistics, possessing terrifying efficiency. The dispatch barrier troops from Jiaohua Monastery clearly arrived with great speed and reinforced the barrier, for Yue Qingyuan also extracted him. What the I'm so sorry. I don't know why I can't read today. Not alliteration. Emphasis. The dispatch barrier troops from Jiaohua Monastery clearly arrived with great speed and reinforced the barrier, for Ye Qingyuan also extracted himself with extraordinary swiftness and just as swiftly caught up. In less than an hour, they all arrived at the Luo River's middle reaches. Because of the great number of people, they were forced to partition themselves into groups and descend in turns. Both banks of the Luo River had already been long crowded with cultivators who'd received the news, observed the phenomena, and come to investigate, their various sect colors intermingling in a mosaic. The Taoists from Tianyi Temple were busy evacuating the ordinary civilians by the Luo River, while Wu Wang and Wu Chen walked in front as they led Jiaohua Monastery to the assembly. Ye Qingyuan cupped his hands, deferential. Many thanks to the masters for the disciples you sent on to resolve our crisis. Without you, Sangchong Mountain's 1,000-year legacy might have come to an end today and been unable to survive. That monk, Wu Wang, always had a lot to say, but today he kept his expression stony and remained silent. Instead, it was Master Wu Chen who wiped away his sweat and said, Amitabha, it was not only your honored sect whose 1,000-year legacy was at risk. Jiaohua Monastery, too, was in danger of falling to this plight. Ye Qingyuan was a little surprised. Was that the case? Masters, you sent hundreds of your monastery's barrier disciples to Sangchong Mountain. Did you have enough to defend the monastery? Shen Jingzhou was also skeptical. Was Jiaohua Monastery really so enlightened that they'd help other sects even if it meant harming themselves? Wu Wang's expression worsened further. Master Wu Chen realized that he wouldn't talk, so he could only continue speaking. This is truly difficult to say. It wasn't saved by our own strength, but with someone else's great assistance. Ye Qingyuan was bemused. It couldn't be Tianyi Temple. Tianyi Temple had always possessed a reputation for being lax and carefree. They were the most disorganized and undisciplined of the major sects. On top of that, they had no great accomplishments when it came to barrier arts. So if Jiaohua Monastery really had survived thanks to Tianyi Temple's assistance, that would certainly be quite remarkable. Master Wu Chen shook his head. It was Huanhua Palace. Shen Jingzhou's fan paused as he blurted out, Huanhua Palace? Then wasn't that... Wu Wang looked rather green. Correct. It was Luo Binghe. Suddenly, a soft, short laugh drifted to them from the side. I dare not call it great assistance, a clear and ringing voice said courteously. If it must be said, I was only doing it for Shizun's sake. Everyone present was a cultivator with supremely sharp senses, so no matter if they were near or far, at this moment they all turned towards Shen Jingzhou. Hundreds of pairs of eyes and gazes of every kind surrounded him from all directions. Shen Jingzhou opened his fan, slightly using it to conceal part of his face. Luo Binghe strolled over, and a gust of river wind blew against his profile, rippling the hem of his black robes. The sword at his waist was Zheng Yang. Behind him, Mo Beijun walked to his left, chin slightly raised, while Xia Hualing's alluring figure was to his right. The long, unseen Huanhua Palace disciples followed closely behind, and at the very end of their train was a small troop of demon soldiers in black armor. Shang Qinghua was mixed into the crowd, appearing here and there. It's the ensemble episode! Yay! He darted back and forth, movements as slippery as an eel and completely incongruous with the scene. The moment he and Shen Jingzhou came face to face, hooks seemed to fire from their eyes, entangling their gazes as 1,000 swords and knives shot back and forth between them. It was quite exciting. Luo Binghe cut through the crowd, stately and grand, then placed himself as the third party, standing at the last point of the triangle. A brilliant variety of countenances were displayed across the crowd, enough to compose a whole custom emoji set, especially those from Sangchong Mountain. There had been a time when they'd fought Huanhua Palace on sight, so now, upon meeting an old nemesis, their gazes were particularly furious. But given what Jiaohua Monastery had said, currently, they were not enemies but allies, so they could only swallow down those feelings and show restraint. Are the two masters serious with this? Qi Qingqi said warily. Luo Binghe smiled. Is Peak Lord Qi worried that Jiaohua Monastery has also been, ruined by my influence? As another tussle was about to break out, Shen Jingzhou hastily said, Of course Master Wu Chen's words wouldn't contain falsehoods. As he spoke, it was like the hundreds of gazes that had originally diverted from him had been agitated, and as one, they all swept toward him again. Qi Qingqi glared at him viciously, her expression like that of someone who resented his uselessness, or of a parent upset with their child's boyfriend. Oh my god, okay. Daughters is crossed out in the sentence. Or of the parent upset with their daughter's child's boyfriend. So stupid. Luo Binghe's gaze was fixed upon him, and he spoke as if no one else was present. Shizun, we haven't seen each other in so long. This disciple missed you dearly. Little bitch! Didn't we just meet last night? In his head. Oh god. If anyone else said they'd missed someone dearly, everyone on the scene would definitely break out in goosebumps. But Luo Binghe's setting was stuck on, no matter what he says, people will never feel disturbed. So the crowd's attention failed to shift toward him. Shen Jingzhou, however, was personally experiencing the cold and judgmental stares of a crowd. It was all he could do to make a tactful sound of acknowledgement. Oh boy. A small smile lingered on Luo Binghe's lips. The southern and northern borders have been locked in an endless conflict, he continued. I am the leader of the northern why can I never say northern border? We don't agree with this act of meager. What? No, we don't agree with this act of merger. And therefore, this time we're willing to lend you our strength, to join hands to repel the enemy. Watching Luo Binghe stand with his hands behind him, dignified and proper, who could have guessed that beneath this exterior was a personality of a young maiden, one who loved to lie atop others while crying and acting spoiled? Who would believe if you told them? Forgive this your whoa, that's hard to say. Forgive this Yue's suspicion. But when we last met at Jiaohua Monastery, we parted on unhappy terms. Yue Qingyuan said calmly. God damn. Now Palace Master Luo suddenly wishes to join hands with the cultivation world to repel his own birth father. I only do things for one person, Luo Binghe said shortly. I neither know nor care about anyone else. He hadn't said who the person was this time, but did it matter? Was there a point? On this snowy winter day, Shen Jingzhou fanned himself so hard, his literature club appropriate folding fan almost turned into an electric one. What the fuck? One. If only he could blow all those gazes still aimed at him to somewhere beyond the 9 heavens. One of the sect leaders let out a dry laugh. Peak Lord Shen has truly raised a good disciple. He's become our cultivation world's tremendous fortune. Though he said raised a good disciple, the tone was no different from the way he might say married a good husband. When Shen Jingzhou heard this, his fanning began to carry a hint of murderous intent. Wu Wang looked like he was itching to beat these 2 degenerate creatures to death with his staff. He's being homophobic. Homophobia in my Danmei? No way. Binghe only is filial to one man. Sorry. Okay, we're back. If Benefactor Luo wishes to help us, there could be no better outcome, Master Wu Chen said hastily. We request that sect leader Yue handle overall management of the situation. The sects had always silently recognized Yue Qingyuan as a capable pillar during times of crisis, and now he actually slipped into the task of formation and coordination. No, he automatically slipped into the task. I request that Jiaohua Monastery have their remaining manpower set up a barrier and impede Maigu Ridge's descent. It must be prevented from making contact with the river's surface. Master Wu Chen looked troubled. Of course, we will do our best. However, the Luo River is vast, with a great distance between the 2 banks. Without a place to stand, the foundations will be unstable, and it will be difficult to set up the arrays. Yue Qingyuan thought for a bit. What if our peak disciples support you with their swords? Could you set up the arrays in midair? No need to go to that much trouble, said Lord Binghe. He tilted his head without speaking. Sexy man. He tilted his head without speaking, and Mo Wei-jun left the ranks by himself, walking to the river bank. He stepped onto the water's surface, but did not sink. Jesus. From where he stood, sturdy ice rapidly spread outward. After a short time, a stretch of water had frozen into ice a meter thick, and that area expanded unceasingly, freezing the swimming fish in place. With only a bit longer, he would probably freeze the entirety of the Luo River's middle reaches rock solid. When it came to output, the demon race had a natural advantage. Gasps of surprise as well as expressions of displeasure rose around them. Wu Chen gave continuous thanks, but Luo Binghe showed not a hint of arrogance. He only looked back at Shen Jingzhou, his eyes very bright. He said, Dad, do a good job. She said, Dad, do a good job. Do I get head pats? Oh, God. Oh, my God, he's being such a good boy. Shen Jingzhou noted that he'd farmed quite a few righteous image points, and that the crowd's air of hostility and wariness was no longer as heavy. Satisfied, he couldn't help but say, well done. A smile bloomed on Luo Binghe's lips. Somehow, Shen Jingzhou's lips, too, curled upward. When he realized what face he was doing, he immediately tugged the corners of his lips down, managing to control his expression. Internally, he wondered, how come it isn't only tears that are infectious, but smiles too? Falling in love. We're gonna continue. Next, Yue Qingyuan delegated tasks. Tianyi Temple would continue to spread out to locations beyond the Luo River, where more phenomena of the merge were starting to occur. There, they would protect and evacuate civilians. After them came Sangchong Mountain. After pondering for a while, Yue Qingyuan said, When the first wave of demons from the southern border breaks through, Baijan Peak will meet them. Only 40 people had come from Baijan Peak. Someone couldn't help but say, the southern border has a great variety of demonic beasts, each more powerful than the last. Can 40 people really hold off the first wave of the assault? Please. Imagine doubting the battle ability of those battle fanatics. Luchinga stood in the front. Luchinga stood with a foot on some rubble, his sword tassel, white sleeves, and black hair dancing wildly in the wind. He didn't answer them directly, only coldly addressed the disciples behind him. Those who don't kill at least 10,000... What, not 10,000? Those who don't least... what the fuck? Those who don't kill at least 1,000 can go crawling to Anding Peak. Those 40 answered in unison. Yes. Don't discriminate against Anding Peak, Shang Qinghua muttered feebly. Shang Qinghua mentioned! My boy! My little mousy boy! Logistics above all. Pride goeth before the fall. Yue Qingyuan continued to make arrangements. Chongding Peak, Xuanshu Peak, Jiangzhou Peak, each had their own stations and duties. Shen Jingzhou saw how carefree Luo Binghe seemed, and he couldn't help but ask, how many people did you bring? Not going to make assignments? The moment he opened his mouth, he felt countless ears prickling up, breaths pausing as they eavesdropped attentively. Even the whispers in the crowd had quieted a fair amount. The lovely dourest nun triplets nearly let out curious giggles. I brought everyone I could, said Luo Binghe. The assignments are easy. As he spoke, he pointed behind himself at Sha Hualing and Mo Beijun. Ju Chongjun is hers. The ugly beasts are his. So you're making the daughter backstab her father again? This was practically... Anything else? Shen Jingzhou asked. Luo Binghe nodded solemnly. Yes. I hate him. I hate him. He's treating this like it's their first fucking date. I can't stand him. Yes. His face spread into a smile. And Shizun is mine. Coughs sounded all around him, and Shen Jingzhou felt like his face was about to fall off from shame. He closed his fan with a snap, holding it in his hand as he adjusted his expression. This master has something to say to the former Anding Peak Lord, he said sternly. For now, go consult the sect leaders and discuss your plans for receiving the enemy. Everyone knows the first date was about True. Okay, but this is their first public date. God. They're so gross. I hate them. Oh no. He fled right after, not bothering with anyone's response. He grabbed Shang Qinghua and, like lugging a dead pig, dragged him to a tree that was slightly out of the way. Why aren't you dead yet? Said Shen Jingzhou. You should have died 800 chapters ago. Why hasn't Mo Beijun snapped your neck? Shang Qinghua straightened his collar. Master Shen, you should have died before me, but you were still running around in perfect health. Can you really say anything? Shen Jingzhou rested his forehead on his hand and sucked in a deep breath. Towards the sky, bro. Great master. Great master, airplane. Were you not held enough as a child or something, huh? Huh? The original backstory for Shen Jingzhou that you mentioned was a sicko abusing him in his childhood. Do you really love writing miserable and tragic pasts that much? Tragic characters are more popular, said Shang Qinghua. Bullshit! He got 2 comment floods yelling for his castration, and you're telling me that's being popular? Wasn't that because I axed the backstory? Shang Qinghua presented his logical counter-argument. Wasn't Binghe tragic? Wasn't he popular? He still had the gall to use Luo Binghe as an example. Shen Jingzhou whacked him with the fan. Just how much do you like this trope? He thought of Luo Binghe kneeling miserably on the ground as he picked up the teacup of his small frail body as he lugged heavy pails of water up and down the mountain stairs, of his huddled form at night, curled up in the woodshed's corner and shivering, arms around himself. Whenever Shen Jingzhou thought of these things, his heart clenched, perturbed. He wouldn't feel any better unless he beat someone up. And that someone had to be airplane shooting towards the sky. Making everyone there eat though. Wait, why is their message retracted? What? What the heck? Shang Qinghua looked at his face and said in astonishment, "Cucumber bro, what kind of expression is that? Don't tell me that you're distressed. I always thought you'd be the type to firmly stand your ground. Cucumber bro, I always thought that you were straight." Shen Jingzhou kicked him. "I don't have time for your nonsense. Tell me, how are we supposed to beat Tianlang Jun?" "Don't beat him," Shang Qinghua said, distressed. "Don't you find him pitiful? Though, to tell the truth, I have no idea how to beat him, because I never finished sorting out the details in the outline. If we don't beat him, you and I will be the pitiful ones. If you have no idea, think now. You were the one who created this world's logic. Your thoughts themselves are the outline." Yes, but he hadn't finished speaking when Lo Binghe's voice drifted over. "Shizun, are you done? If you're about finished, it's time to leave." It hadn't even been 5 minutes. Shen Jingzhou quickly turned around. "Leave? Both sect leader Yue and I think it's best for everyone to send 10 people to extract the sword. Will Shizun go? If Shizun goes, I'll go." "I can," said Shen Jingzhou. After a pause, he pointed to Shang Qinghua. "And bring him." Shang Qinghua's face paled in shock as he pleaded with his eyes. "Cucumber bro, spare me." But But Shen Jingzhou had already sauntered off. Lu Qingge and Bai Jianpeek were responsible for guarding the ice. Shen Jingzhou passed by him, then suddenly doubled back and said, only partly insincere, "If he asks what? Okay. Oh my god. I hate them. They're flirting. If he asks his disciples to kill 1,000, then Shidi must be a role model and kill 10,000 himself." Lu Qingge humphed. "I'll kill all who dare come." "Not concerned this time." Lu Qingge thought for a bit, then reluctantly said, "Jiang Wenxuxiang will be there." Lu Binghe tugged on the corner of Shen Jingzhou's clothes. "Shizun, let me fly with you." Shen Jingzhou looked down at his waist. "Don't you have a sword?" Now that he was only dealing with Shen Jingzhou, Lu Binghe immediately dropped his badass, darkened demon lord facade. He said bashfully, "Lately, I've used too much demonic qi and not enough spiritual energy, so I've kind of forgotten how." The remaining 10 or so people all looked toward them. Shen Jingzhou didn't want to drag this out. "Get on," he said recklessly. Oh, he just didn't want to drag it out. He just didn't want to drag it out. He didn't want to call his bluff or anything. He just didn't want to drag it all out. Oh my god. It's not like he wants to. Their swords soared high into the sky, and the moment they entered Maigu Ridge, they descended. So Lo Binghe didn't get that much time to feel him up. The fact that that's in this, okay, it's the whiplash at every turn. Okay, They landed in a patch of jagged rubble. White rocks were densely packed into the forest, withered bones sprouting in the gaps. Looking up, eerie trees rose into the sky, pitch black in color, intertwined and interlocked. An unknown monster's cackles mingled with the cawing of crows, the sound reverberating over the ridge. Before they could find Shin Mo, they'd probably have to search the ridge for a while. Maigu Ridge has many demonic creatures, Shen Jingzhou reminded everyone. So it would be best not to touch anything that looks alive. As a demon, and also because he needed to express how sincere he was about cooperating, Lo Binghe naturally situated himself at the forefront, and Shen Jingzhou walked with him, side by side. As the two of them walked and walked, Lo Binghe reached towards Shen Jingzhou and sneakily held his hand. Wu Wang let out a loud cough. Wu Chen chanted in Amitabha, and Yue Qingyuan's gaze serenely shifted to them. Shen Jingzhou's breathing faltered, his forehead, cheeks, neck, and ears flaming in unison. For some reason, he felt embarrassed and flustered, and he slowly drew his hand back. Bitch. Bitch. The moment Lo Binghe's hand was empty, his eyes immediately transformed into a snow-cloaked wasteland. He quickly laughed and said in a hushed voice, "What are you afraid of? They need my assistance, so they won't say anything." Shen Jingzhou said quietly, "That's not the problem." Lo Binghe didn't relent. "Then what is the problem?" Shen Jingzhou held up his fan. Let's solve the problem before us first. Then we can talk later." Lo Binghe slowly backed off, then smiled. "All right," he said lightly. "After all, we'll have the time to talk later." Everyone in their group could sense that countless creatures lurked all around them, ready to pounce, hiding in this densely cluttered foliage and waist-high grass, as well as between the gaps in the stark white heaps of rubble. Jewel-green eyes and hissing breaths rose and fell like tiny ripples. At this time, the advantage of having Lo Binghe as a vanguard became fully apparent. Whichever direction he walked, the ill winds immediately ceased, becoming as silent as the grave. The creatures waiting in ambush either played dead en masse or fled in a panic, resulting rustling as they went. My bad. Spicy hand rolling was just too spicy. Too spicy. They couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle the handhold. I'm gonna continue. To put it plainly, it was like they were avoiding the plague. With that kind of divine assistance, they reached their goal in far less time than they'd anticipated. If within some swirling white fog, a location that spewed black cheese straight up into the sky suddenly appeared. Look, anyone who wasn't blind would definitely find it strange. The mountain cave's entrance was covered in a dense cloak of green leaves, gloomy and forbidding. When standing by the entrance, there was a sense of chill. Everyone stopped in their tracks, hesitant. Their original expectation had been that, before reaching this place, they would need to kill 800 enemy generals, slaughter another 1,000 demonic creatures, and cut their way through all kinds of poisonous insects and alien plants. Only then would they painfully arrive at the final level. Even if it were to be less eventful, surely their clothes needed some blood on them to be worthy of a boss fight. "I'm afraid we cannot act recklessly," said the sect leader. "We should first investigate and ascertain the situation," another agreed. "But of course," said Lo Binghe. He just finished speaking when Mobeijun sent... Oh my god, I fucking forgot about this. Oh my god. Oh my god, let me snooze the ad first. Oh my god. He'd just finished speaking when Mobeijun sent Shang Qinghua flying forward with a kick. And he really did go flying. Under Shen Jingzhou's shocked gaze, Shang Qinghua tumbled and skidded as he went flying into the hole to investigate and ascertain the situation. After a long, dead silence, a terrified scream suddenly exploded from within the cave. Ah. It says ah. It says ah. That's the end of the chapter. and that's the end of the chapter. Yep. Oh boy. Oh boy, we have a lot to read next week. Wait, what is 343 minus 273? Well, we might actually have to split it up into two streams anyway. That's the end of the chapter. Spoiler alert, Shang Qinghua doesn't die here, okay? Just don't worry about it. He's just a crybaby. Fair enough. Okay. That's that. So stupid. My god. They just go ascertain the situation. Yeet! They fucking yeeted him. And you know what? He kind of deserves it, is the thing. He kind of deserves it as well. But I love it so much. Alright. Alright, everyone. Wow. I'll put this book down. Thanks for sticking around this far. I will get back on Sunday to this. Yes, somebody do quick maths. Somebody. Where's my calculator? Where's my freaking calculator? Where's my freaking calculator? I have to search it up on my fucking calculator app. What is it? 343 minus 273. That's 70 pages. I don't know if I can do 70 pages in one stream. It's okay. We'll see what happens. Whatever happens, happens, alright? And no one is going to cry. Maybe. Maybe. We're almost at the end of it. It's more of the last chapter. I mean, end of the main story. There's still the side stories to get through. But I think I might have to read some of those off stream. Actually, I want to see where the side stories start. Does it start right with? Let's see. Which one does it start on? Okay, yeah, I might I might have to read that one off stream. How long is that one? Anyway. Actually, I could probably start it on stream and then finish it off stream. Yeah. It's pretty long, so that'll be that. Oh, it doesn't matter. We're not talking about that yet. Okay, here's the thing. I have a schedule. For once. I'm streaming like almost every day this week. If you would like to take a gander, I'll cry for unrelated reasons. Oh, so true. I'm streaming tomorrow. I'm playing Wobbly Life with my friends because I've been wanting to play Wobbly Life for so long. But I'll be playing with Sky Gloves and Foxy and Purge. Dogbit, aka Friendly Cat. Like, why the fuck is his name like that? I don't know. Don't ask me. And then on Thursday, I'm going to be doing another collab stream with my other friends. I have so many friends. I'm not used to having a lot of friends. But we're gonna be doing a silly stream on Thursday, so if you're interested in silliness, it's all silliness this week. I'd take a look. I'd go ahead and take a look. And also, don't forget to, well, I mean, like and subscribe, yay. And also, I have a Discord if you want to be up to date with things going on. Yeah, it's a public Discord. You can take a peek and join if you'd like. So yeah, it's pretty chill. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Have a wonderful rest of your day and stay safe. Stay safe. Stay safe. Or try to stay safe. Try to be as safe as you can. Okay. Okay. Bye.